This is Venusian Womb, a space for orienting to reality through the body,
where we explore how systems, culture, identity, and lived experience shape human perception.
And what it means to stay grounded, question deeply, listen honestly, and learn when to trust yourself, when to question yourself, and how to discern the difference. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Venusian Womb Podcast. This is episode 4 of our season 2, and we are so excited for this conversation. Why? Because it is in the liminal space, which if you've been following us from season 1, A Dream in Gestation, then you know that this liminal space is very familiar to us. And that is also the beauty of dreaming and the dream realm, which is exactly what we're going to be diving into today. And really talking about that liminal space between dreaming and waking life, between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, and how we can bridge these two worlds together of our inner worlds that we experience when we are asleep and the outer world that we are actively co-creating with life, and how we can actually interpret our inner worlds even more so we can bring that into our conscious waking life and allow the magic to unfold in our day-to-day. So we are so excited to welcome our guest, Natasha. We are super grateful. We met Natasha at Sacred Village this past summer, and her workshop was so incredibly enlightening and also human. It was so relatable. And she just spoke about basically the realm of where we all traverse to at nighttime every single day, and what it is to navigate the dream realm and how we can start to interpret and understand what we're experiencing and even receiving the messages of what that means. So I'm super grateful and honored to welcome Natasha to the Venusian Womb Podcast. And I'm just going to pass it off to you, Natasha, if there's anything that you feel called to share about your work and what you do before we dive into our conversation.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure to meet you both, but we really connected after that, because the workshop was on the last day, and then we ended up running into each other in the most random way. And it was like, I just knew that this was aligned. So I'm so excited to have this conversation with you both. Dreams are, the primary tool, I guess I would say, is what I talk about and the things that I'm promoting in the world. But more importantly, it's really my passion and a calling. There's a cosmology to dreams. And so there's so much to talk about. And what I do is help to take this very sort of complex, weird thing and really make it attainable for people. It doesn't have to live out there. It's actually inside of us. And so the work that I do is really using dreams to help us just grow in our lives, expand, connect to the numinous, the divine, to help us in our everyday lives as well, and to help us heal and remember who we are. And I do that through modalities of dream work, embodied dream work, experiential dream work. I do that through facilitation at retreats and workshops. So it really spans, all the different ways that we can actually use dreams, we can create with our dreams. So there's also creative aspects to the work that I do as well, and helping, tease that out of us, because dreams, there's so many possibilities, unlimited really. And so there's the science of dreaming, and then there's the mystical aspects of dreaming, and then there's the everyday application of how we can use this in our everyday lives. And so that is really the work that I do in the world. And so I go by Natasha Dream Seer on Instagram. My website is Beyond the Subconscious. And Beyond the Subconscious for me is really, the name says it all. It's going, because we kind of limit ourselves, I think, with dreams too, in the sense that we think it's just the subconscious. There's just so much more to it. It's much more expansive. It's really a connection to our ancestors, right? To our ancient bodies and our ancient energies that are out there. It's, an access point for understanding our archetypal energies. And so that is the work that I do and promote and talk about. And I'm excited to have this conversation with you.
I also wanted to add that when we were introduced to Natasha's work, I mean, I didn't get to be part of that when you guys met afterwards, but I do want to speak to my first impression of Natasha, because even before we had met her, when we saw her workshop on the schedule, it was like an unspoken, oh, we need to be there. Whatever that is, we need to be there. Full body resonance for both Milena and I. And the moment we stepped into her space, I remember it was in the barn, and we had already been in the barn so many times that day, but there was something so eloquent and convicting in the way you spoke, Natasha, about like the embodiment of the work that she does. You can tell and you can feel that this is lived. This is not just something she read in a book and is regurgitating. She knows what she is speaking on. And it was, I think we both looked at each other at one moment in her workshop and we're like, we both want her on we want to ask her to come on the podcast, right? Like, this is something we both want to do, because this woman, the way she embodies her purpose, her calling, is felt. So such an honor to have you here. Such an honor that you said yes. And already just getting to know you a bit more afterwards, it's so exciting, because this is like the essence of what we're wanting, a big part of what we're wanting to bring forth on the podcast and just on this womb journey that we've been exploring, this dreamy realm. So with that being said, our first question for you would be, we want to know, how has your own relationship with dreams evolved over the years? And is there any particular dream that has taught you a lot about discernment and trusting yourself?
Well, the evolution for me has been lifelong. And so that that embodiment that you witnessed is really something that has carried. Dreams were something that were talked about in my household, but it wasn't like, it was so organic and just natural that, I still remember dreams from when I was a child. And so there isn't this one anchor dream, and everybody comes, like different dream workers, some of my colleagues, they come at it in different things, right? Some of, bouts of nightmare and so on. For me, it wasn't like that. But there were some big dreams that happened. And in those intervals, every single time those big dreams happened, there was a belief that I think was naturally created inside of me. I've shared this with, in front of 100 people. I mean, I remember I had my big, spaceship dream where I was a kid and I saw this giant spaceship and I can still see it. My cousin still remembers me talking about it, right? Where it was just so big and so blinky. And I was just like, in awe of this thing. And I don't remember anything actually happening. The lights kept coming towards me, but it was just I was in awe of the magnitude of it, of the ship. That has stuck with me since I think I was 9 years old. And then when I was 11 years old, or I really don't know if it's 11, it's between 11 and 13. But, I had this dream where it ended up where I could see myself in my bedroom and I'm lying there and I can see everything in my room as it is. And then the next morning I had woken up on the other end of the bed and then I came out running out and I'm like, Dad, I slept with my eyes open last night. And he's like, so I explained to him and he goes, he's reading the Sunday newspaper and he's like, I think you had about an out of body experience, but he was so casual about it. Right. And I was like, oh, okay. That I accepted it. Right. He kind of went back to reading. And that's because he's already, experienced these types of things. But he was so casual. And I was like, okay, all right. And then there was a moment, I was 16 and I worked part-time in this big store. And my high school boyfriend, he had gone to Germany to visit family and he was gone for 6 weeks and he was gone for most of the summer. But while he was away, I remembered having a dream and it was so clear. I can still see it. And it was actually, all I remember is the brown leather bag. It was a brown leather bag, thick leather, and it had like large hand stitching on the outside. He comes back from vacation. Back then, there were no cell phones. And so he comes into the store that I'm working with and brings me my gift, which is a watch inside of a brown leather bag with stitching on the inside. Now, it wasn't the same bag, but the characteristics were the same. And that was the moment where I went, whoa, whoa. I think that was where non-local, that non-local consciousness, non-local awareness and things like that just really naturally planted. I was like, okay, there's something here. And then it started happening like that. So there were little pebbles, I would say, along the way. And that also, so there was a natural acceptance of this otherworldliness of dreams. And because they were spoken and presented to me in the way that by my own parents, it was like, we talked about dreams as messages and who visited. And I think that's really common in certain cultures, Caribbean culture, Indian culture, Eastern cultures. I know for sure, we talk about these types of things. And so, even amongst extended family, it is really a common conversation. And then when I went into my own spiritual awakening, my Saturn return, that's when it really kicked up. I started to have these sort of epic dreams. And the one in particular, I still remember it. It was like I was falling, but at quantum speed. It was almost like you're falling at this sort of Mach level, like, but they would, like the astronauts coming back into, this atmosphere. It was so fast that it almost felt slow. And then I landed in this giant hand, which felt like I landed in God's hand. And I remember being inside of it going, holy moly. And then when I woke up, I was on the other end of the bed. And that was 2003. And I was like, oh, okay. So somehow I'd moved around, but that was a big one. That was sort of a door opener. And from that point on, it was, it was on. And that was 2002, 2003.
Oh my goodness. Like that is, and it's so interesting because I've heard about different types of dreams from, just people that I've met, and I've heard about the flying dream where you're in the air, you're flying, swimming dreams. Never heard of a spaceship dream. I really can't say that that's been something that's come into my field. But it's so beautiful. And actually that day that we had synchronistically met, you said something that also really stood out to me, which was the fact that you're able to have experiences in the dream realm that you wouldn't be able to have in waking life, especially for people that, might be in their elder years or might have certain conditions that don't allow them to be physically capable of having these experiences in waking life, and how the dream realm really is a space where they can go and be expressed in ways that they can't in their waking life. And I just thought that that was so beautiful because it's so true. There is so much magic in the dream realm, and we're able to do things and experience things that we wouldn't be able to otherwise. And I think a big part of that, of starting to actually explore and play more within this realm, is understanding how to be more autonomous when you're in a dream, being aware of the fact that you're in a dream, lucid dreaming. And so this is kind of my follow-up question, and this is just my own personal question, is what are the ways that you explored as you started realizing, wow, there's really something here for me, and I feel very connected to this, and growing up with it too, and having this in your field. How was it for you actually starting to work within the dream realm and start to practice more lucid states as you were dreaming?
Mm-hmm. So at that time, I just went online, right? And it's really that simple, but most people actually still do today. And that was like 23 years ago. Anyway, I hopped online, and at that point, there wasn't a lot of dream dictionaries. There was one. and online.
Wow.
And that became the thing. But I actually did physically go, how do I lucid dream? And I was intentional about it. I put the paper and pad right beside my bed, actually, so that I could start to write things down. And that was really, it really is that simple, is the documentation. When people ask me this question and they think there's going to be this big, monumental thing that you must do. No, the first thing that you do is actually to document. Because when you document your dreams, whether you go back to it in that moment or not, you're preserving possibilities. You preserve possibilities when you document your dreams. And because it lives somewhere where you can go back to and you can work with it. You can come back to it years down the road. And so that that act itself is so intentional, right? Because you have this window to capture the thing. And it's also showing yourself, showing your subconscious and teaching it and training it that this is important, that I want to do this, that I want to remember my dreams when I wake up, and I'm going to be intentional. You are creating a relationship, and that relationship with that, thing that we have, whether it's consciousness, whether it's, this sort of force that exists, it is going to communicate back. I get number sequences and angel numbers in my dream because it knows that I'm looking for that. So it communicates back to me all the time. So I don't even just see it outside, on a license plate. I actually get them as I'm waking up. If I see a receipt in a dream, it knows how to communicate with me. And so there's a level of entrainment that actually happens with the simple act of intentionally saying, I'm going to do this, and do it. The thing is, when you write it down, just write down what you remember. Most people feel like they've got to sit there and figure it out right away, and you don't. When you document, you preserve the possibility, you go back to it later that day, you've already got it. You don't have to sit there and, and then as you go through that symbol list or the things that you saw, it'll start to come back to you. And then you kind of I started to slot things. So I didn't even learn this from anywhere. I just started to write down the symbols and I was like, okay, let me put them in sequence now. Right. And then allow the context to emerge, because there's a narrative arc that actually happens with all of those weird symbols. And so you can look at the symbolism in isolation, but then you've got to learn, and that can be, for some people, they take a little bit of time. But listen, you don't need to do this every single day. It's like, remember one a week and you're golden.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You're already ahead of the game, right? You're not necessarily me who, documents. And the thing is, I don't document every single day either. Most days, but not every single day. Like if it escapes me and I can't get it back, sometimes I try because I was like, that was such a good one. I want to remember it. And I do. I sit there and I will spend time with that in meditation to try to get it back, whatever pieces I can get, because that's how important it is to me. And I protect that about me and hold it in such high regard, because for me, it's my closest ally, and nothing gives me more comfort actually than my dreams.
I love how simple that is too. It's just the intention. It's just setting your intention, and it's a habit that you start to bring into your life to be able to start recalling and remembering and bringing back your dreams, or just recollecting your dreams. And there's something that really has stuck with me from what you've said before. And also when you just shared your story about the first time you astral traveled or astral projected, and your father was just like, yeah, you were just astral traveling back to my news. How normalizing that is for something that we do every single night. And I'm so curious how dream sharing, like from it being so normalized, and like I know you've mentioned you've dream shared with your family before. That was another part of. I'm so curious how that also maybe helps build this skill of, yes, setting your intention, but also just sharing with others and like starting, how could that fit into all of it?
Listen, my hope for the world, and I've created an image, which is, I want this in schools. I want people to have pods of people be launching a dream circle guide on how to actually hold symbolic material. Because in a lot of, just not outside of dream sharing circles, just in sister circles or fulfillment, people share their dreams and nobody knows really how to hold symbolic material. Some people will default into, interpretation and things like that. I didn't even have that. Like, we just talked about it and it was just so open. And that was normalizing, but also building a muscle that I didn't even know I was building. Right. And it also is one of the things that I didn't necessarily look at a nightmare like a nightmare. It wasn't like, oh, I saw the scary monster, and then mom is coming over and going, it's okay, honey, I'm here. It's just a dream. Right. The word I've actually written on this, which is, that is probably one of the beginning points where someone begins to not trust their own intuition. It's actually something that is very commonly said. Go back to bed. It's just a dream. It's just a dream. Go back to bed. I'm here. Right. Without opening up the dialogue. It's not just a dream. We could actually read that and say, oh, you had a bad dream. Do you want to talk about it? Tell me more. I'm right here with you. Right. It's actually opening up the dialogue to talk about it. And that will build a skill and a level of trust, and also creates this sort of neutrality and detachment, right? Let's talk about, is that scary? Okay, let's talk about that, and is there something that's happening in our day-to-day lives, right? Let's just have a conversation. When you open up that dialogue, from a parent to child, like that openness and that intimacy that you're creating, that sense of it's okay, this is normal, and having deeper conversations about the benefits that it's actually, helping to strengthen. Those are ways in which it really transformed me, I think, in a way that I didn't even realize. I've never had that doubt that intuition exists. I've never had that doubt that, like, you see signs and it's like, or synchronicities, and yeah, it's a coincidence. I never really had that. I understood really early on, because of this, that there was something bigger than us that's kind of weaving in our everyday lives. There was already an acceptance there of the numinous.
So you spoke to the feeling of these dreams and the ways that we experience these dreams, and they activate so much energy in us. Like, sometimes it can be a super scary dream and you wake up and you're like heat flashes, sweating, like you were very in the experience of whatever you were dreaming about. Or, I know I've had dreams where I am free falling and then I wake up and I have that like tickle in my stomach, like I would when I'm like actually in free fall. Or like there have been dreams where I've been chased and like I've had someone hurt me or stab me and I'm like, oh my God, I'm dead, which I'm not because I'm dreaming, but I definitely wake up and I feel pain and then I realize it's like phantom pain because I'm okay. So it's just so interesting seeing the ways that our body is like so deeply somatically connected to our dream space. And I think that that's so beautiful, like the way that so much time can pass. And even though we might not remember the specific story or like the details or the context of the dream, especially if the context is just not even sensical, but you remember how it made you feel. And I think that that's so important because there is this like somatic anchoring in your body of a memory that you have from certain dreams that really activated something in you and really stood out to you. And I think it's because of that activation that we actually hold on to them and we remember them and we can revisit them in our body. And this kind of brings us into this somatic connection with dreams and really what happens in our consciousness, in our bodies as we start to really work with dreams. And you've spoken to already the ways that dreams have been so transformative for you when you've been able to work with them outside of your sleeping, dreaming state, and just how powerful it is to kind of keep that energy moving, that energy in your body in waking life. And I'm curious, how can we begin to start kind of anchoring these dreams in our waking life? Like, how can we start working with these dreams in our body, maybe more tangibly, um, as we're connecting with this whole realm of consciousness?
Well, I think a couple of things. And to answer that, I mean, dreams are a fully somatic experience, right? You experience it. You experience all the senses, some lesser than others, but you experience it. I've had the best lasagna I've ever had inside of a dream.
I've never
I
gotten there.
still remember it. Like, I've had, so it's like, and then smell, whenever those ones happen, I'm always like, ooh, like this is so cool. But also, what is our sleep doing for us on a physiological level? And so, although I present this, it's numinous and magnificent, the thing is, it's actually processing us, or it's regulating our nervous system. We go through a whole thing hormonally through our sleep, actually, which is huge. And so hormones are happening throughout that, but also a nervous system regulation. So if somebody is going through some things in their life, that's why a lot of, when people start to reach out for support, it's because you've had this, dream that might be gripping. You wake up, cold sweats, you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh. And that's a real thing. The thing is that the dream is there to help you. And if you always take that position of the dream is here to help me, then it isn't, the dream is giving me this, this negative symbol, right? Or this negative signal. And so it's processing anxieties. So sometimes there's two things. People will wake up and see elements in a dream that cause them to think that the dream is negative.
Mm-hmm.
So if you see, so they're judging the dream, which creates an anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the actual, maybe they're going through a lot of roughness. Maybe they're processing a lot of trauma in their life. And there's unresolved issues. Maybe there are people who are dealing with PTSD and the dreaming place, it's unsettled. Okay. They're on a loop. And that all of those things can happen. They're all real things. People that are going through bouts of isolated sleep paralysis. I say isolated because there is chronic sleep paralysis, which is unfortunate, but isolated sleep paralysis, if people are going through bouts of that, we can often look at our waking life and connect the dots.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But I'll give you a couple real world examples because, I've had two women who are both actually, psychic mediums in their own right, promote that, or out in the world with that. And they told me, I've got these crazy dreams, right? But in both instances, and one in particular who was going on a flight, but in both instances, they were like, oh, traumatic dream. It was so bad. And it had to do with a plane crash. And so immediately they're like, already now, nervous system is kicked up. What does this mean? Oh my gosh, is this a warning? So on and so forth. And so we dream worked it, which is I brought them back into the dream and we started right from the beginning of them taking, being on the plane and looking around and seeing the people in the aisles and things like that. And in both instances, I was like, what happened when the plane went down? In both instances, the plane landed. It landed in a field and none of them were hurt. That's a great dream, in my opinion, right? But they weren't looking at that. They were focused on the fact that it went down.
Wow.
Because that part of it was what was giving them the charge, right?
Mhm.
And so, because right away you're like, oh, plane crash. It was like, oh, what is this trauma? Like, I feel like I've done all this work and now I'm still having this same thing, but it wasn't the same thing. And until we went through that and they were able to see, that actually they were powerful in it. They were still standing. They were still, um, and then looking at how in their waking life, what does that resemble? What
Mhm.
is this reminding me of? Feeling into the body, the style of dream work that I use most, embodied experiential, is a somatic style. And it's really, the basis of that is based on a style called focusing, which is letting your body interpret your dreams and really kind of tuning into feeling and sensation to guide the way. I shared with you, before we started recording, a dream where I had a granite, where I had grabbed a crystal from a jar and it was a granite green heart. It was a green heart. But what stayed with me the whole day was the fact that I was like, but it was great. Like I kept seeing that visual of it. Like that's not like a fluorite or, a type of this type of stone and that type of stone. I'm like, this is granite, and
Mhm.
granite is so strong. But that was what really that gave me that nuance of what my dream was. Because I was like, yeah, I'm not really looking for romance. Like I'm not closed off. I'm not really looking for that. But it was solid. It's like your heart is in the right place. You're solid, your sense of self-love, solid, and I'm in a strong place. I connected that feeling, right? Because just a few weeks ago, I'd had a dream where I had these like ghoulish little like figures. Like there were wisps of like, I don't know, smoke, but they were coming towards me in the dream. And all of a sudden I went into this like power stance and I kind of rebuked them. Right. And I'm like, ah, right. But not in a scary way.
Mhm.
Right. I was like, but what I woke up with was how solid I felt in my body. And that feeling of how solid, it was like, I remember feeling like concrete. I remember feeling like I'm metal, like my stance, everything was so solid on the ground. And how I take that into my day to day life is that's how I'm feeling these days. I'm feeling solid. I'm feeling sturdy. I'm feeling like I've got the ground beneath my feet. And so when I feel into that feeling and I feel that little granite green heart, you know, it's giving me a feeling that
Mhm.
I can now walk through life in, because that's how I'm taking it into waking life. So when I've got a retreat coming up, you know, it's knowing that I'm solid. I got this. Right? When I'm in scenarios or in rooms where, I work for the International Association. Well, a member of the International Association for the Study of Dreams, and I'm the chair of the social committee. But I'm in a room of people that are really, these are the guys that have written the books and done the
Yeah.
things, the PhDs, and it can be easy sometimes in certain rooms to go, "Ooh, do I belong here? Do I know enough?" No, I'm solid. I'm
Mhm.
solid, right? So that feeling now is something that I can take with me every single time I have an imposter syndrome moment. If I'm standing in front of a group and everyone's faces are staring, and if that one little moment kind of comes in of a little bit of fear and self-worth, I can anchor into that feeling
Mhm.
of I got this and I'm solid and it's not fake. I actually felt it in my body.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing that I'm inviting people into more of. A couple months back, I'm going on a walk and I see a pile of sticks formed like a nest. And I remembered that earlier that morning, I'd woken up out of a dream where I saw a nest that was perfectly formed. Now I see this pile of sticks kind of gathered. It's not perfectly formed, my dream life was showing the end result, but my waking life was showing me the raw materials of what I'm building. And that's how I chose to make meaning out of that. And I get to make a meaning. We get to do that. And by making that meaning and making that, bringing that into my waking life and that awareness into my waking life, look at what that sets off, right? I'm in the process of forming and building, right? I talked to you about launching my new website, and it's like, I'm building and forming, I'm pulling the sticks together.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I walk in this world. And it works. And it gives you a sense of certainty in the uncertainty. I don't know all the time how things are going to, transpire and work. I get to, because of that, allow myself to really embrace mystery a lot easier than, most, I think, because dreams have taught me that.
Embrace and be excited about the mystery too, of like
Yeah.
knowing where is it leading me? Where is it guiding me? I don't know, but I'm here for the ride.
Let's see, and you do that enough time and you build up enough proof, and then when you build enough proof that the mystery, just kind of living in that mystery a little bit and allowing the process to unfold and taking that, you take that aligned action, right? We've all heard that term. You take aligned action, we do a little thing that pushes us towards our goal, but sometimes I don't really know where it's leading. I just know that I saw something in my dream that I was inspired by. I trusted enough that it pulls me forward. That seeing that nest, it gave me enough. It's like we're in communication. There's a bigger fabric, a bigger thread, and it's weaving with me, and I can trust that that is with me. And so that synergistic relationship is absolutely key. You start to see things in your waking life and you feel kind of glitchy at first. It's like, oh, whoa, okay. And for some people it's like, wow, but it's dream synchronicity is a thing. And it starts to actually increase the more that you put into it. And it comes back to documenting, because you won't remember it unless you document it.
Yeah.
Right.
It feels like the most foundational thing of just this conversation is that the dream realm is alive. It is alive. It has so much life. It has a consciousness. We are actively co-creating in the dream realm with this field that is working with us. And it's also just like sending us messages and signs through all of these different symbolisms and experiences that we get to have in our dream realm. And I think it's so beautiful that we are active co-creators in this alive dream space. And that kind of brings us into waking life and just how we are experiencing this liminal space between the unknown, the unseen, the mystery, and what is actually material and tangible in our everyday life. And it's beautiful to actually start to feel like I feel like the dream space is an access point into this liminal field, which for us in Venusian Womb in our season 1, we spoke about a dream in gestation. Like we're talking about the womb field. Here we're talking about the dream field, but it's all the same field of aliveness. It's this field that is the unknown and the unseen that we are actively in relationship with, speaking with, listening to, communicating with, and co-creating with. And I think it's just so beautiful that like, as we start practicing this in our dream realm, we can also start practicing this within this realm of creation in our waking life. When you're feeling that nudge or that spark of inspiration from whatever inspired you, maybe it's your dream, maybe it's a synchronicity throughout your day, but you're kind of receiving the signs of the field. And then from there, you can start to work with it and you can start to create from it and bring it into your everyday. And like you spoke to, Natasha, like maybe that the way that you're even bridging this liminal space of dreaming and waking is how can I have an anchor in my body, maybe from a dream that allows me to connect to this energy of empowerment. Like Megan and I, even, it's kind of unrelated, but kind of related. We've even entered like the medicine space. And we have very visceral, anchored experiences from those ceremonies that we've had in our body that we can come back to and fully reconnect to that energy that we felt in that moment. And I think it's so beautiful how, there is this relationship with the unseen, whether it's in the dream realm, whether it's in the process of creation, whether you're in a beautiful ceremony with spirit, like there is this element of we're receiving and co-creating with this alive field. And that kind of does bring us into more of like this worldly perspective of dreaming and how these dreams shape the way that we see the world and also shape the way it shapes how we have our perspective of maybe the world that doesn't exist, but we see it. Like maybe there's a reality or a vision that we're connecting to, maybe that's been inspired by whatever field. But we want to bring this vision into our everyday lives and have it start to shape our reality and our world and the people that we're connecting to and the ways that we're showing up in the world. And I'm so curious, Natasha, like how dreams have shaped your worldview and how they can continue to do so as we connect more with this realm.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so there is actually social justice dreaming, right? There is collective dreaming. We dream into our, futures. But we can weave together a collective dream, and there are dream workers that do it, that I know because I'm in this field in the association and so forth. But it is a thing, there's the difference between sort of visualization, right? Of, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to visualize something. I'm going to visualize a better world. We have a imaging faculty, right? That we can actually vision the way that we want to see the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
The goodness in the world and bring forth that sort of new earth. The thing is, it starts with us. And we've got to get right with us, which is important. And so because we're, the collective is individual, right? It's actually all of us together that weaves the collective. And so individually it's tuning into that ourselves, but also, the things that are in our waking life shape, our perspectives, what we're thinking about, and those things show up in our dreams. And so, when people, a lot of my American friends, when things were happening with, in Minnesota, for example, there was a high uptick in dreams where there were, people were being intruded upon and feeling, helpless, like they couldn't do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not always just sometimes about dreaming a better future. It's also, I think, neutralizing and giving a space for what we actually feel on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important. So it's an honoring of, some people, maybe they have to put on a brave face, right? You go into work, you do the job, you've got to be a positive person. Your families, they've got to be a brave face for the kids and spouses and all of those things. But the dreams realm gives you a place to process and emotionally regulate and to honor true feelings without judging the feeling as a low vibe, right? It's actually giving space for it to process in its way. And so when we have those dreams that might feel ominous, it is, where we feel a certain way, instead of judging yourself for having the dream or judging the dream as a sort of negative dream, it's actually going, hey, let me write about this. Let me journal. What am I what am I actually feeling right now? Where is this tension in my body that I'm feeling into? right? How is this, happening? You know what? I really am impacted by what's going on with me. This is really, and maybe it is that feeling of helplessness. And maybe that does create a question of what more can I do? And is there ways that I can contribute that I haven't thought of? Or maybe maybe I shouldn't be watching so much of this. Maybe I should, kind of step back a little bit, right? Maybe that's the call. The thing is, your dreams will actually show you things, and then you still have the autonomy to make the right decisions in your life. But what you can trust is that it's processing for you. But we can also dream a dream together, right? If you want to incubate a dream, it is a sacred, it's a sacred thing to actually incubate a dream and say, hey, tonight, this is my intention. I want to dream of ways where we can put more positivity in this world. Or I want to, the dream that I'm putting out tonight is I would like to dream of ways that up humanity, whatever it might be. You can incubate that. You get to incubate that. And so you can put that in the dream space and just allow the dreaming mind and the dreaming body to infuse it and trust that they meet in that other space, in the collective world, right? It's an energy that you're putting out into the world. And so, oftentimes, like for me, for example, there is things that come from the news that sometimes I'm not even aware of. And then I'll see it later on in the TV and I'm like, oh, okay. So there was reverberations that I'm feeling, that are out in the field. And so we are really powerful beings. We're little antennas, right? And receivers and transmitters. And so we have to believe in our own power. We have to believe in and trust in the dreaming state of that, what we want to dream forward. That little act is not that little. It's essential. And we continue to have that ongoing dialogue with ourselves so that we can understand where we're at and make sure that we're regulated and make sure that we're held so that we have enough in our overflow to give to our community around us. Dreams do so much more than just, give us messages about our day-to-day lives. But it is by doing those simple acts, you're actually contributing to something much bigger, the collective dream.
And there's a little part of me that's geeking out over here, especially as a somatic intimacy coach. And there's as you were speaking of during that plane crash, the assigning meaning of what that crash meant, even though the plane landed. And a lot of the work I do is what morality are we assigning to the sensations and the bodies that we're experiencing? And is that needed? Or can we just be with the sensation? Can we just be with the feeling and allow that to emerge and be its own thing? And in that, I'm also seeing how dreams, as hearing you speak, is such an incredible tool and skill set to practice our own self-trust, practice trusting ourselves. And like you said, you've never doubted your intuition, but so many of these times that we maybe bypass what's happening in our feelings and want to assign a story, or this means bad, or this was a horrible nightmare, is this avoidance of self or avoidance of maybe what you're telling yourself. And how much agency and even your empowerment with the heart, the garnet heart, there's agency, there's choice, there's autonomy in this space that we get to go to every single night. And this whole way that we can learn to relate to ourselves that we tend to just push aside. And it's such a beautiful way of practicing your intuition, practicing listening to yourself, practicing trusting yourself, and seeing the ways you do have autonomy and choice, and that how maybe sensations or things that we're perceiving and the stories we're adding to what we're experiencing are clouding what really is.
I also, sorry, I just want to piggyback to that, which is the feeling sometimes where you feel like you're not in control of your dream and you're just in it for the ride. And there's just this whole storyline playing out and you don't really, because you're not conscious of the fact that you're dreaming or there isn't this lucidity that comes through, is also leading into the fact that while that may feel like that, especially as you're just stepping into the practice of working in the dream realm and becoming more aware and maybe setting intention before bed and documenting, it's like you actually are totally autonomous, even though it might not feel like it. And that's where the practice comes in. I just wanted to add that because I feel like sometimes we think that we're just like, oh, okay, what am I going to dream today? You know, like hopefully it's not this dream I hate. And being able to go into it, right? Like with knowing actually I have a say. So I'm going to set my intention and I'm going to like connect with the field and know that I am actually co-creating with this. Like that is so possible. And that's also why we're having this conversation, is knowing that you are an active co-creator.
Yeah, there's circles now. There's a lot of the dream researchers, a lot of the neuroscientists have coined the term dream engineering. MIT did a big symposium on dream engineering. University in Montreal, again, same thing. There's a lab and they're talking about dream engineering. And I'm, I'm I use my dreams in multiple ways, right? So it's incubating that dream that I want, but I'm not necessarily going to get it that night. Right? Sometimes it's 2 days later. Like you almost got to put it out there, just and then step away, right? You got to let it go and just kind of surrender and trust it. And then, and lo and behold, it'll usually pop up in a few days. But it's also, you just don't know how it's going to come through or how the answer is going to come through and which visual is it going to come through. And yeah, in even in Tibetan dream yoga, there's a sense of, it's not like you're just floating aimlessly, right? It's like I'm going into this other world and I'm just like, whatever happens, happens, right? There's training for being able to kind of enter these spaces, but it comes into first, there's an awareness you build, because lucidity is there's levels to lucidity, but also, I like being kind of like, let me see, like, show me, like where am I going? Kind of like, okay, let me get the popcorn out and see what's going on in here. There is something, I don't like controlling my dreams too much because I don't really want to, actually. It's the one place. But yeah, you do have a dreaming body. You can prompt it, right? You can prompt yourself. And so, for example, when you've got a problem, give it to your dream space, right? I will go to bed. Let's say I'm at a conflict with a friend or there's something that I'm feeling, right? A ways I'm feeling bothered by this person and I can't figure out why I'm bothered, right? I'll give it up to my dream space. Help me understand this. Why am I feeling this way about this? And it shows up in my dreams. It gives me that. And I write about this actually. So for me, I'm a big pattern recognizer. So for me, I actually will see how my dreams kind of connect the dots. And in a recent dream, it brought me back to dreams that I had. An image actually that I saw online brought me back to 2 dreams that I had in 2023 and 2025. And it connected the dots for me in the now. I was like, why now? Why this image? And it had this like life that kind of really just lived on. So I see dreams in a much more expansive, way, but it's also having a sense of surrender to it. But it's also saying, I've got this cool thing that I can use. Mm-hmm. And I can help, everyone has woken up having a problem solved from their dreams, right? All day we're perplexed and then we go and that's what they say, get a good night's sleep, and then it pops up in the morning or whatever it might be. Like we have, because it connects the dots along the way. And so we are not even using a fraction of the possibilities that we have in our dreams. For me, when I plan a talk, even at the Sacred Village where we met, the Sacred Village Women's Festival, I just first get into a meditative state, and then I allow the image to come to me. but I invite it in. It's almost similar to inviting the muse, right? Creative people. And so, you know, you kind of allow it, you allow yourself to be this sort of empty vessel and to see what kind of, but the thing is, I coaxed it in, I invited it in, right? This is what, I'm giving this talk on this. Show me. And then I just kind of allow myself to be in that meditative state. I actually don't force the thought, and then I allow myself to go into that. And so we can do that. Dreaming states have these multi doors, these multi access points. So when you talk about liminal spaces and things like that, we're not even using a smidge of the capacity of our dreaming. And I think it's going to become more and more important as we continue on forward in our future. You know, when we think about the collective and we think about humanity, I think we're seeing this pop up a lot more. People are actually waking up to their dreams a lot more. And it's in the field, and it's going to continue to grow.
Honestly, my prayer for humanity is that we all connect to our capacity to dream. To dream a new world, to dream a new way, to dream. Really, I feel like dreaming is our connection. It's our connection to the universe, to whatever force is supporting us in the unfolding of our lives. And it's just so beautiful how, for Megan and I, it was this womb field. That was our access point. And slowly, as we continue, like as we've been in this practice of kind of coming into this like liminal space, it's the mystery, it's the unknown, it's the unseen, it's all of that potential that's available for us. And it really comes when we're in this meditative state, in this state of flow. And I know for Megan and I, like we've dropped into that, just being in co-creation and ritualing together when we do our somatic and embodiment, our somatic and sound journeys, where we drop into this beautiful liminal space and we're co-creating in this space. And there's so much that is spoken without words. And it's really just this felt field that we're both in. And it's even challenging to express it and conceptualize it right now, because it's one of those things where it's like, if you know, like if you had this experience of kind of being in that space that feels like flow, and it's not forcing. It's not forcing. It's really just receiving and being open to whatever you feel connected to, whatever reveals itself. For me, it's kind of been the sound space, dropping into sound journeys and seeing how that brings me into this state of flow. And we're talking about it in the dream space, right? Which is also just as we're coming into this trance like, and then from trance into this deeper rest state. So it's all of these states of being, brainwave states that are much slower. And so our brain waves are actually significantly slower as we start going into these deeper and deeper meditative states. Our breath starts slowing down. Our heartbeat starts slowing down. Our thought patterns start slowing down. And it's so beautiful to see how there almost is this giving away of control and of the active egoic mind that is dictating our experience when we're in this trance liminal space, whether it's you're going into dream, whether you're going into meditation, you're going into sound, you're going into a somatic journey, like whatever is that access point. Maybe you're playing a sport or you're just super locked in this art that you have. It's like whatever brings you into that space. When you're in it, there is so much magic that can unfold. And this is really what we want to share with our listeners and with the people that have been following us in this womb field, is realizing that the womb field can take so many forms, but it is all connected. And there's so many different doorways to come into this field of creation, this womb field, this dream field. And I'm just so grateful, Natasha. Thank you so much for sharing about your work and the magic of the dream space, and really just inspiring. I know you've inspired Megan and I so much. It's 11:11 right now as I'm saying this. It just inspired us so much to really connect to this aliveness and this field that is continuously talking to us every single night when we go to sleep. It's just so beautiful to have this, start building this relationship. And then from there, when we build our relationship with our dreams in this space of liminal flow, then we're able to share it and share our dreams. And so, yeah, I'm really just sending an invitation for everyone to get your paper, get your pen, put it next to your bedside table, and just have it accessible and available for you when you feel inspired to start working with the dreams, with your dream space more, and with your internal dreams, whatever dreams want to come through outside of the actual sleeping dream space. So I just want to pass it off to you, Megan, if there's any things that you would like to share as well, just as we close.
I'm like, there's so many things in my head right now. I'm like, which thread do I pull on?
I could talk to you two forever. Like,
this is like our bread and butter.
I'm just feeling very, I love how aligned this topic is with so much of what we do. And just there's this new, and even just since I've met you, Natasha, I've already before this been working with my dreams or writing my dreams down more. And there's this new element, even when you're just saying before, like I always tell people sleep on it, but I don't say, but then send it to the dream, like intend to so there's like this missing, I feel like this puzzle piece just pieced together. I'm like, oh, that's what you're meaning when you're telling people sleep on it. Like
Never
now
knew that.
that we have more, no, neither did I. So I'm feeling a little bit like, oh yeah, that makes more, now there's like an actual reasoning why I tell people, hey, sleep on it. I tell myself sleep on it, because we're giving it to the dream world to, we don't have to figure it out, and then we don't have to figure it out ourselves.
Yeah, you do it.
We don't have to figure it out. There's such a like an exhale in that
Yes.
feels so liberating and sovereign. There's a sovereignty in it too, and trusting that there's this intelligence, there's this field, and this relationship that could be built with your own dreaming body, with your own dreaming state.
Powerful.
And there's something so empowering in it. So I'm having lots of thoughts and feelings moving through me right now. I'm excited to go back to all my little dreams that I've been writing and finding the symbolisms. And thank you, Natasha. Thank you for bringing your wisdom, for bringing what you have to share. Like you said, we could talk to you for hours. We could go so deep in so many places. But I feel very awakened. My dream body feels very alive in this moment and excited and curious. There's lots of curiosity of continuing to reinforce this relationship with this incredibly powerful part of myself.
And I also want to just open the space, because Natasha, you were doing so much goodness in the world, really just speaking about dreams and bringing people into these dream spaces so they can start reflecting and connecting with themselves in their inner world. And we would love if you are able to plug in any of the ways that people can come find you, can come work with you, can drop into the dream field with you and explore themselves even deeper.
Yes, thank you both for your words, for receiving this, for wanting to share this with your audience, and really seeing the vision. We're sitting here as a group of seers, and you're putting this vision out into the world and helping to continue seed it. So thank you for that. And yes, absolutely. I love to work with people one-to-one. So I do one-to-one dream work. It's in my, what I call somnium. And so this is one-to-one dream work, but it really takes different phases. I have people that come to me who are dreaming so much and are looking for it to quiet down. And I work with those people as well. And so there are some people that are like, oh my gosh, I'm dreaming so much. And it's just like, I can't understand what I'm going through. And it's like, yep, come talk to me. People that are actually dreaming a lot, but wanting to unpack it from a place of real expansion. Wonderful. Leaders who are going, I want to widen my vision. I'm a visionary, but I want to go out there. I want to really use this capacity to dream things I've not, that are I want to access more. Perfect. Let's talk. There are people that are going, you know what? I want to start creating from my dreams. I want they're creatives, artists, writers. how can I tell my stories better using my dreams? Let's talk. There are people that are doing plant medicine ceremonies and are experiencing um, incredible visions, incredible feelings. They're wow, it's opened up a whole new portal. Excellent. We work with that too. And so all of those things are things that I work with. My mission for people is to help make life flow, seamless, access things. I call it think less and do more, right? The overthinking, the rumination, and how can we let go and trust the mystery? I work with that. And so that happens. I also do retreat facilitation and bringing workshops and a little psychopompic action into workshop experiences as well. I'll also be releasing my Dream Circle guide. And this is something that I'm really proud of because it's for facilitators so that people understand how to actually hold symbolic material, how to hold dream material, things that are very, very personal and very, very vulnerable in these sharing spaces actually require a different style of communication. And when that is done really well, everyone becomes part of the dream. So it's a way of dream weaving, which I think is going to be something that everybody should have in their toolkit. Because as we all are experiencing different scenarios, a facilitator might have a circle, a sharing circle, someone shares a dream, somebody goes to interpret it, it doesn't land well, or they feel exposed, or they are like, that doesn't align. It can actually create a sense of distrust in the environment. And that can be challenging. So there's different things that are going to be. And so this is something that is like, post your own dream circle, find 5 friends and start doing a monthly thing. Here's the thing. Here's how you do it. Start having your own monthly dream circles with your own community. Just start talking about your dreams. And this is a framework to be able to do that. So I'm excited about that. And they can find me at www.beyondthesubconscious.com and find me on Instagram at Natasha Dreamseer. And I would be excited and delighted for those that I love writing. I go really deep into my own sort of thought processes and share a lot more storytelling on Substack. And LinkedIn is really where they'll find some more things on how I can help with really, using dream work for business. So it can be applied in so many different ways.
Thank you so much, Natasha. We are so excited to keep dreaming, to collectively dream, and to also just bring more of this magic, because it's just the unseen. It's literally magic into our everyday life.
I forgot one thing.
Bring it.
I'm actually going to be, because I think this is going to be airing soon, right?
Yes, it's Dream Camp.
Yes, Dream Camp. So I'm going to be facilitating at Dream Camp. I'm doing the largest cosmic slumber party. So people are actually going to be invited to sleep together in the same room. I've got Darren Austin Hall on sound. I'm going to be taking people through and really recreating the ancient temples of Greece and Egypt and how they did dream incubation, because it was a thing, and really bring people into a beautiful nidra. And who knows, some people might lucid dream, some people might astral project, some people might have the best night of dreaming that they've ever had. Some people might end up spooning someone they've just met. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be fun. And it's a beautiful wellness retreat. So that's going to be happening the 3rd week of August.
And we are so looking forward to being able to stay connected with you, Natasha, to co-creating, to being in connection, and to just kind of seeing where this beautiful journey of life brings us as we continue to dream our dream into the world. So with that being said, thank you. And we will see you when we see you next.
If this conversation stirred something in you, stay with it a little longer. Notice what resonated. Notice what challenged you. Notice what your body knows, and notice what it may still be learning.
Discernment is rarely about arriving at certainty. More often, it is the practice of remaining curious, grounded, and willing to stay in relationship with the questions that matter. If you'd like to continue exploring with us, join our newsletter for reflections, resources, and deeper conversations inspired by each episode. You'll find everything linked in the show notes.
Until next time, may you continue learning when to trust yourself, when to question yourself, and how to discern the difference.